Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar hosted by the National Partnership for Student Success, Accelerate, and the National Student Support Accelerator on high impact tutoring. I'm Kate Cochran and I'm with the National Partnership for Student Success. And I'm excited to hear from today's amazing panel moderated by Raymond Pierce of the Southern Education Foundation and including panelists from Accelerate, the Annenberg Institute at Brown University, Reading Partners, and Guilford County Schools, all about the important role of high impact tutors in supporting student success. This webinar is the second in a series focused on the 5 core National Partnership for Student Success focus areas. And those focus areas are tutoring, mentoring, post-secondary transition coaching, wraparound or integrated student support coordinators, and student success coaching. So the National Partnership for Student Success, or NPSS, is a 3-year effort led by the Biden-Harris administration, including the U.S. Department of Education and AmeriCorps, along with the Everyone Graduates Center at Johns Hopkins University, and a coalition of about 100 organizations that are committed to providing the academic, mental health, and other supports that our young people today need to succeed. The NPSS brings together schools, districts, students, parents, federal, state, and local agencies, AmeriCorps programs, state service commissions, nonprofits, and others around the common goal of getting more trained people to support students in high impact and evidence-based roles, both in school and in out-of-school time settings, so that students can not only recover from the impacts of the pandemic, but succeed and thrive. We launched the NPSS at the White House on July 5th, alongside a call to action for an additional 250,000 Americans to serve in high impact student support roles, including in roles as tutors over the next 3 years. And this coalition is beginning to support school districts, local and state government agencies, student support providers, and community-based organizations to think about increasing the number of students that receive evidence-based and people-powered supports based on locally determined needs. With that, I'm excited to pass it over to Raymond Pierce, CEO of the Southern Education Foundation, who will take it from here.
Thank you, Kate, and I really appreciate the opportunity to moderate this conversation with the National Partnership for Student Success. This is so timely and actually helpful to me to have this conversation. Just recently, the Southern Education Foundation was notified that we've been granted the award from the Department of Education, the federal government, to manage the Equity Assistance Center for the South. And so I'm in a conversation just this morning about somebody on this subject of lost learning time. And it is very real, and it is showing itself in so many different ways. And it's also exposing other areas such as well-being and overall health of our children, of our students attending schools. And so a conversation about high impact tutoring by experts and practitioners that we have assembled here today is great. It's incredible, because we need to talk about this. This is a call to action. If we don't want there to be a continuing gap in learning among some of our students. So with that, let me introduce our panel. We got Kevin Huffman. Kevin, CEO of Accelerate. Kevin was Tennessee's Education Commissioner from 2011 to 2015, as the state's made the largest academic gains in the country. Congratulations, Kevin. He began his education career as a first grade and second grade teacher, and later became an education lawyer. I want to talk to you about that, Kevin. I'm a recovering attorney myself. And he was a senior executive at Teach for America. Kevin Huffman. Next, my friend, Dr. Susanna Loeb, somebody I greatly admire. You can't have a conversation like this without having Susanna, or somebody at least could perhaps sit in her place on this. Susanna is the director of the Annenberg Institute at Brown University. She is the founder and acting executive director of the National Student Support Accelerator. I think I'm on her advisory board, right, Susanna? Yeah, yes. Dr. Loeb's research focuses broadly on education policy and its role in improving educational opportunities for students. Her work has addressed issues of educator career choices and professional development, of school finance and governance, and early childhood education systems. So glad to have Dr. Susanna Loeb here. Kara Hamilton from Guilford County. A lot of great things going on in Guilford County, Kara. I'm a longtime resident of Durham County, North Carolina, and you guys seem to always get the attention from K-12 higher education. I don't know what's going on in that county, but we need to go over there and drink some of that water. Kara Hamilton is the secondary tutoring program supervisor of Guilford County County Schools in North Carolina. Again, can't have these conversations without having the real practitioners. It's great to have Kara here. She brings more than 20 years of experience in education and operations to her role, leading efforts around high impact tutoring in Guilford. And then last but definitely not least, Adeola Whitney, CEO of Reading Partners. Smile, Adeola. Previously, Adeola, Whitney provided leadership around the expansion and implementation of iMentor's College Success Program. Before joining iMentor, she served as Reading Partners Chief Regional Operations Officer and as Executive Director for Playworks for the Greater Newark region. Glad to have you, Adeola. We want to know how this impact tutoring is working from the supplier side, and so glad to have you a part of this conversation. So I got to start off with you, Susanna. Susanna, you've got the mic. Why don't you get this conversation kicked off, please?
Thank you, Raymond. We are so excited to be part of the National Partnership for Student Success, and today to share what we've been learning about high impact tutoring and its effectiveness today. I just wanted to start with a quick motivation. So we know the pandemic dramatically reduced student learning. This well-known chart from McKinsey showed that by May of 2021, students were on average 4 months behind where they likely would have been in reading and 5 months behind in math. It's also clear that the pandemic was not experienced equally. This graph from NWEA, for example, shows that students who started out lowest achieving on the left of each of these graphs ended up far behind where they likely would have been without the pandemic, while initially higher achieving students lost much less, and in some cases saw no loss as a result relative to prior years. So that raises the question of how to support the students who need it the most and to accelerate their learning. Well, rarely in research do we have so much evidence pointing to the promise of a specific approach, in this case, high impact tutoring. Researchers have performed over 100 random control trials, which are systematic studies of program effects that do a great job of isolating the true effect of the program on student learning. The studies that are graphed here show positive effects of tutoring across grade levels and subject areas, with effects in most cases ranging from an additional half a year to more than a year of learning over one academic year of tutoring. Importantly, too, often these results are based on studies of students who are far behind grade level. So tutoring turns out to be a really effective way to accelerate learning for those with substantial unfinished learning. Not only has tutoring been shown to be effective, it's also more effective than almost any other intervention that researchers have tested. So in this case, we compare it to professional development and class size reduction and other really substantial investments in schools. Its effectiveness in many ways is not surprising, given that tutoring can target the specific needs of each student, and tutoring from consistent tutors can help develop close adult-student relationships, which can improve students' engagement in school and really their overall well-being. In fact, tutoring is often the intervention of choice for those who can afford it. So more than $40 billion were spent privately on tutoring in the US last year alone. This benefits many students, but it certainly increases inequities in access to educational opportunities. In addition to the clear benefits for students, tutoring can also benefit the tutors and the teacher pipeline. Tutoring can be an on-ramp to the teaching profession, creating hands-on experiences that help tutors understand whether teaching is a good fit for them as a career. Moreover, if tutors are recruited from the local community or the local college, tutoring can provide a pipeline to teaching that can diversify the teacher workforce, having teachers better reflect the students that they serve. However, as we know, people define tutoring in many ways, and not all of the approaches are effective. During the No Child Left Behind era, Parents whose children were in schools that failed to meet adequate yearly progress for 2 or more years were able to sign their children up for tutoring outside of school. This may sound like a good idea, but it was really not particularly effective or equitable. Only about 23% of eligible students participated at all, and for those students, the average impact was close to 0. The programs varied widely, and there was really very little focus at that time on the quality of the tutoring. However, even then, tutoring demonstrated some positive outcomes in places that had minimum dosage requirements, had more structured tutoring sessions, and stronger coordination with schools. So it's really clear from NCLB that not all tutoring is effective, but that evidence points to several critical elements of effective tutoring, and that's what we've been calling high-impact tutoring. So what is high-impact tutoring? Well, we've taken all the elements of programs that have shown positive effects to date and created this framework for high-impact tutoring. In particular, we found that 7 elements are critical. The first 3 are the foundational elements of equity, safety, and cohesion, and they support 4 model-specific elements related to the tutor, to instruction, to learning integration, and then to data use. So first, the program just needs to be grounded in equity to reach the goals that we have. This means ensuring that students who need it most have access, and it means that tutors lead sessions with equity at the center of their instruction. Second, the program needs to ensure student safety. That seems like a good base. This means designing a tutoring program in which the students and their information are safe and protected. The third foundational element is just generally cohesion. Good programs have effective leaders who make sure all of their elements and internal systems work together cohesively towards the program's goals. So these are the base. But in addition to these 3 foundational elements, they're the 4 model-specific elements, and the first of these is the tutor. Effective programs place a high priority on developing a strong tutor-student relationship, which requires having a consistent tutor who not only has command of the appropriate content knowledge, who knows, for example, the math, if they're teaching math, but just as importantly is skilled at engaging students and developing positive relationships. Good programs provide pre-service training and ongoing coaching for tutors. A wide range of people, however, can become high-impact tutors. While certified teachers have proven to be particularly effective tutors, paraprofessionals, AmeriCorps members, college students, volunteers, and many others can also be really effective. So high-impact tutoring programs have strong tutors who have received initial training and then have ongoing supports. The next model-specific element is instruction. High-impact tutoring requires special attention to the amount of instruction and to the quality of instructional materials used. Evidence shows that high-impact tutoring programs often have their students meet with tutors at least 3 times per week for at least a semester, and better yet, for a full school year. The quality of instruction is, of course, also important. Most tutors need quality instructional materials to help them create strong tutoring sessions. In terms of learning integration, programs that are embedded in the school day or are directly before or after school are particularly effective. This can be tricky, as it's important not to replace core instruction. However, this integration with the school is necessary because these programs have higher attendance, and for equity, they are able to reach the students who need tutoring the most. Finally, the 4th and last model-specific element of high-impact tutoring is data. High-impact programs use data to understand students' learning needs and then to track their progress. So high-impact programs use this data to know what the students need, and they also use it to track their overall performance so that they can continuously improve. So we found that it's helpful not only to describe, like I just did, what we understand to be the elements of high-impact tutoring today, but also to hone in on what it is and what it isn't. Again, this information isn't the final word. It's based on a large body of rigorous research available to date, but it will evolve as we learn more about tutoring effectiveness and how to scale. In fact, we and others are conducting a number of research studies in order to learn more about each of these elements. And our partners at Accelerate, you'll hear from Kevin today, are spurring innovation through their call to effective action. And you'll hear about that in a minute. But so we may be updating this, but for what we know, our best guess right now, high impact tutoring is not irregular homework help. It is consistent instruction that develops a strong relationship between the student and the tutor that increases well-being as well as content-specific learning. It provides a consistent tutor, not a tutor at each session. And this consistency is important as it builds relationships so the sessions are not just focused on question resolution, but really build deep skills. Sessions are built around students' needs as informed by data, not just reliant on the student to identify what they need. That's a really hard thing for a student to do. High impact tutoring focuses on acceleration so students can build the specific skills they need for grade level work. It's not focused on making up every hole that the student has in prior work. Really, what do they need to move forward? Importantly, it is intensive and not ad hoc, with regular meetings, again, at least 3 times per week. Finally, and this is key, it's accessible to all students in need. And as a result, it does not rely on parents to take it up or to pay for tutoring. So this is our summary of what high impact tutoring is. And it's pretty straightforward to write it down and based on a large body of research, but implementing it can be tricky. We're finding through our work with districts implementing high impact tutoring across the country that we have a window of opportunity right now. Schools are already disrupted and focused on finding solutions. School leaders are searching for and considering options that they might not have considered 5 years ago, including adjusting schedules and thinking about new human resource models, new adults in schools. Funding's also far easier, at least for the next few years, since a portion of the COVID relief funding must be spent to address learning loss with evidence-based interventions. Tutoring is clearly an evidence-based practice, so this funding is available for districts to implement high-impact tutoring. Finally, recent research has allowed us to better understand what drives impact in tutoring, so we have a much clearer understanding of best practices and are working towards tools and capacity to scale tutoring with quality. We're just in a much better place than we were under NCLB. In fact, right now is likely to be the best opportunity we'll have to get this proven intervention built into schools for the long run. So we at the National Student Support Accelerator are aiming to help districts and states more easily adopt high-impact tutoring with quality. We do this not by providing tutoring ourselves. That's for other people on the call who are really doing the important work, but through 3 related strands of our work. First, we work to facilitate implementation by providing tools and strategic advising for districts and tutoring providers to launch and grow high-impact tutoring. Second, we work to bring together and catalyze the field of tutoring through communities of practice and through new knowledge from research, including from our research partner sites that we work with across the country. And third, we engage and activate stakeholders to share the research and tools with states, districts, tutoring providers, and other decision makers. I'm just wrapping up, but our website, studentsupportaccelerator.org, has a variety of tools that you may find useful if you want to learn more about designing, implementing, or scaling high-impact tutoring. So that gives you an overview of what the research says and a bit of information about what tools and supporting materials are available if you'd like to learn more. So thanks for having me here, all of you, and Raymond, back to you. I'm looking forward to the rest of the conversation.
Well, wow, Susanna, that was great. Great information. You answered a lot of questions I had, created some more questions for me, but that was excellent. Dr. Loeb's presentation, she mentioned the work that Kevin Huffman and Accelerator are doing. So Kevin, why don't you tell us a little bit about Accelerate, how you guys came into being and what you're working on. I appreciate the tee off that Dr. Loeb gave, but go ahead, Kevin. Tell us a little bit about Accelerate and what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks so much, Raymond. And thanks, Dr. Loeb, for all of the backstory on all of the research that's happening around the country. So Accelerate is a national nonprofit that aims to bridge gaps between research, tutoring providers, communities, and school systems. And we're focused on helping to radically increase student access to high impact tutoring over the next few years. So we do a few things. We seed innovation through grants to a wide range of organizations and partnerships that are working on innovative programs in tutoring. We fund and support research. As Dr. Loeb noted, there is a great existing body of research, but also a lot of things that we're still learning about and that I think could expand our understanding of what does work in districts and schools. We will build a policy agenda at the federal and state level, and will help ensure widespread adoption of things that work over time. And it's this piece that leads us to be incredibly excited about the work in the partnership with NPSS, which is providing for communities and for school systems a one-stop shop to come and get access to a range of information about practices. So Accelerate exists in the context of pandemic recovery, which obviously has created both this incredible need in terms of how far behind students are. Susanna got into that a little bit. And also an opportunity because so many districts are right now working on implementing tutoring across the country. There are, by some count, several $1 billion being spent already specifically on tutoring. Most districts are doing tutoring in some form or fashion, but the challenge is scale. The challenge is figuring out how to take the elements of high impact tutoring that we know work and that have a strong research base already, but figure out how we can bring them to scale in a way that allows districts to implement and manage them and track the data and access the people and tools that they need. So we have funded this year several dozen grants that are focused on helping providers, districts, community partners work on different problems of practice while also studying their work through research partnerships. And we're really excited to see what we can learn over the course of this year. Right now, there's so much innovation in this space, and you'll hear in a little bit from people who are on the ground working on this. But we have grantees that are focused on the human capital pipeline and figuring out, okay, if you have to recruit hundreds of tutors in your community, how might you do that? What are the sources for tutors? What are the policy shifts that might allow you to access a broader range of people? On data, one of the challenges that districts have is the handoff between the tutor and the teacher, and ensuring that everybody has common data so that the tutoring is reinforcing what's already happening with tier 1 instruction in the classroom. With high quality instructional materials and ensuring that tutors have access to the kinds of materials that are really effective. And with technology platforms, there are a lot of interesting innovations in the space right now with providers who are working on ways of hybrid delivery that combine the relationship of a tutor and a student with technology tools. But many of these things need to be studied, and they have enormous potential to help scale opportunities for kids across the country. You'll hear in a little bit from Guilford County, where they're working on scale. And in a district context, I think you'll hear from Kara on both the opportunity, but also the challenge of moving from a few thousand to many thousand students and all of the things that have to be true. So Accelerate exists in this space. We're trying to learn from partners and from grantees. We're trying to seed and learn from research and build a body of research that can build upon what has come before us. And then we're trying to help ensure that across the country, there are opportunities for districts to access tools, knowledge, management systems, so that we can do this not just in a niche way, but for many, many thousands of kids and communities across the country. And I'm excited to be a part of NPSS and to partner with additional great organizations that are working in this space.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Thank you. Excellent. Excellent. And that leads us up to Kara Hamilton, Guilford County. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in Guilford County. I think Mr. Huffman has set you up quite well on this. So tell us what's going on in Guilford County.
Yes, he surely did. Thank you. First of all, it's such an honor to be a part of this panel. I'm in great company with these fellow panelists. So we're really looking forward to sharing some, just an overview of what we have going on in Guilford County. Just for some context, Guilford County schools were located in Greensboro, North Carolina. We're the third largest district in the state with roughly 70,000 students, pre-K through 12, and we operate 126 school buildings. So our high impact tutoring initiative really stemmed from our district leadership with the vision of previous superintendent, Dr. Sharon Contreras, and at the time, Deputy Superintendent Dr. Whitney Oakley, who continues to support the work and vision as our current superintendent now in Guilford County Schools, and really believes in high dosage tutoring being more effective than 80% of other academic interventions when executed with fidelity. Also recognizing that mentorships that form with tutors and building upon those social and emotional supports as well. We've partnered with local universities, North Carolina A&T, University of North Carolina at Greensboro, High Point University, to recruit graduate assistants and undergraduate tutors, which creates coaching opportunities and embedded support systems for tutors, but also creates a teacher pipeline, which we've seen firsthand with schools hiring and filling open teaching positions with some of these qualified tutors. So just to give you an idea of what happens at the school level, each school designates a tutoring coordinator, most of the time that being a curriculum facilitator or an MCL. And schools are encouraged to utilize at-risk reports and target students below the 20th percentile to prioritize students for tutoring. Our tutoring department lives within teaching, learning, and professional development. And because of that structure and departmental relationship, all tutors are trained on district core curriculum, instructional resources, and tutoring best practices prior to being placed at a school and working with students. For accountability purposes, our internal data and student growth departments developed an e-tutoring log using Microsoft Office 365 and Power Apps to capture student information, the time of sessions, the length of sessions, the content discussed, feedback on student engagement, and then it's compiled and reported out through data dashboards in Power BI. So even though tutoring was taking place in the district well before the pandemic, the tutoring department was officially formed in July of last year. And by the end of the school year, the department had hired, trained, and placed over 600 tutors in over 100 schools. We served more than 5,000 students and logged more than 64,000 hours of tutoring. So this year we have a goal to double that and reach 10,000 students.
Excellent. Kara, this is again, this gets better and better in terms of informing this conversation. Again, folks, this learning loss is real. I imagine that's why so many people are on this call, and those of us who are concerned about this are in a bit of a fast pace to try to address this. Got to do it right, of course, but we're in a bit of a fast pace to try to address this. So Adeola, want to hear from you. I'm very interested in on the tutoring, the service provider side of this. I hear at the Southern Education Foundation, we are actually going into our second year, examining some of the administrative sides of new school districts and engaging with tutoring companies and the like particularly in areas of high impact tutoring. So I'm really interested in hearing, and I'm sure our participants are really interested in hearing how this is working from the side of the provider. So you're in the middle of this, you're leading this, Adeola. So talk just a little bit about how this works in the practical sense.
I'd be delighted to. And Kara, just as you said, I'm also just so honored to be on such an all-star panel. So thank you all so much for the opportunity. As Raymond said earlier, I'm Adeola Whitney. I'm the CEO of Reading Partners. And I'll first start with just sharing a little bit about our organization. We're a national nonprofit with the mission of helping children become lifelong readers by empowering communities to provide individualized instruction with measurable results. We were founded back in 1999 in Menlo Park, California. And as you see from this slide, we've since expanded to 12 metro regions across the country, where we have partnered with more than 450 under-resourced public schools and tens of thousands of community tutors to provide more than 2.5 million individualized literacy tutoring sessions to more than 70,000 elementary school students since 1999. We work in partnership with communities and schools to address the opportunity gap by recruiting and training volunteers to provide twice weekly one-on-one literacy tutoring in an effort to help students read at grade level by 4th grade. In each school we partner with, Reading Partners transforms a dedicated space into what we call a reading center, and they're led by an AmeriCorps member, we recruit at least 50 volunteer tutors to serve approximately 40 or more students. Our student tutor pairs work together either in person or online via our Reading Partners Connects platform, where you can see some pictures of both of those program offerings here on this slide. For 45 minutes twice per week, following an individualized reading plan tailored to each student's particular needs and strengths for students' reading achievement. And to execute this work, tutors use Reading Partners curriculum, which is a series of research-based structured lesson plans that focus on knowledge of the alphabet, phonics instruction, fluency, and early comprehension skills for beginning readers, to more advanced vocabulary and comprehension instruction and practice for students who have mastered many of the foundational literacy skills. We assess students 3 times per year so that we can monitor their progress towards program goals and grade level achievement, and to help advise tutors on how to best support their students. As we dive into this new school year, Reading Partners anticipates needing approximately 11,000 community volunteers nationwide, as well as hundreds of AmeriCorps members to support the literacy development of nearly 9,000 students through tutoring and an additional 6,000 students through our literacy support services. Given all that we've learned about the challenges related to the pandemic, as was discussed earlier, and the most recent data that came out about NAEP scores, like many organizations, Reading Partners was built for this moment. And our focus is to do everything we can do to mitigate the challenges that the pandemic has brought on by serving even more students than ever before and partnering with communities who need us most. I'm sure there will be opportunities to share. In case I forget, our website is www.readingpartners.org if you're interested in learning more. And I just look forward to continuing to kind of engage in this conversation with all of you. And I'll pass it back to you, Raymond.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Adeola. Thank you so much. Excellent. So look, this is the time we're going to go through a few questions here. And Kara, we're going to start off with you. We're going to get right back to Guilford County. As I said earlier, always a lot of good things coming out of Guilford County. A side note, I'm participating in a long-standing football rivalry between the historically Black college in York County, North Carolina A&T, and mine, North Carolina Central University. And I'd be remiss if I didn't let everybody know that North Carolina Central just beat North Carolina A&T in the most recent football game. So let's get that out the way.
Thank you for pointing that out.
All right, Kara, let's, again, much has been celebrated about Guilford County's approach to high impact tutoring. Can you share, highlight some of the lessons learned from that county's journey up until now, up to this point? Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. We have learned many lessons, a lot of them being trial and error and adapting and overcoming. First, I would say that having leadership support, not just at the district level, but at the school level too. Principal support is key, and their buy-in is crucial to the success of the program. We continue as a department to ask ourselves, what can we do to support schools and students? And that's really what drives our work. Another lesson learned, really utilizing the university and local partnerships that we have to help recruit tutors. That's been huge. That's allowed the department to focus more on programmatic details and processes and less on recruiting efforts. And then finally, I'll say lesson learned with the accountability system for data collection and the need for it to be flexible and dynamic, also user-friendly to ensure that tutors are using the tool, as we have a wide range of tutors with varying technical and computer skills. So those are just some of the lessons we have learned thus far.
And let's talk about the pain points, Kara.
Sure.
I mean, the things that, look, we got to know with the good comes the bad. There's some things we got to work our way through. So what are some of the pain points in this, and how are you working your way through it?
Sure. We definitely, we have our challenges. We are a large district, and with that comes a lot of moving pieces and coordination of many efforts between different district departments. So having dedicated staff who are exceptional communicators, have the ability to bring teams together, has really helped with the rollout of many of these new tutoring related processes. I would also say, as much as we value our partnerships, they are key components in the success of our program, but working with these partnerships and institutional contracts, it can be challenging to ensure that clear communication between the institutions, the department, school personnel regarding expectations and guidelines of specific types of tutors. So making sure that communication is clear and not confusing. So those are some challenges that we work through on a daily basis.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Adeola, I saw you nodding your head in an agreement with Kara in terms of how they are approaching some of those pain points. Reading Partners has provided literacy support in communities all over the country for the past 20 years. What can you share about what works and how that has changed over time? And if you might also add in there, you're nodding your head when Kara was talking about how, the communications point. If you could touch upon that also, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, Kara, I couldn't agree with you more. And while I don't work for a district, we work with so many districts across the country. And I just think collaboration, recognizing that there's so many various stakeholders at so many levels of this work, that you have to be in tight coordination. You have to have really strong communication. And I think also just centering students. And so just as you were talking, I'm like, yep, I can think of, I could certainly relate. And then just the challenges of the pandemic, right? I think we've all learned that through the pandemic, two things are true. We've learned to be even more agile and more nimble. And I think we've learned that as challenges come our way, we have to recognize there's shifts that we have to make. So those are some of the things. And to answer your earlier question, Raymond, about some of the things that have worked and changed over time, 20 years is a long time. I haven't been with Reading Partners that entire 22 years, but just some of the things that I've thought about, in the larger educational ecosystem, there have been a lot of ed tech products. And Kevin, you were referring to technology earlier in this panel. But there have been a lot of ed tech products introduced in the market over the last 20 years, some with and others without evidence behind them. And at the same time, Reading Partners has continued to recognize the value and impact that a positive, encouraging adult tutor can have with the student by spending one-on-one time with them, focused on building their core literacy skills and confidence. And for the last 22 years and counting, we have delivered excellent results for students and communities. In 2021-22 school year, so last school year, our incredible volunteers delivered over 140,000 one-on-one tutoring sessions, and that was to more than 30% more students than we did in the 2021 school year. More than 75% of Reading Partners students this past year finished the year meeting or exceeding their primary end-of-year literacy growth goals. And over 82% of our kindergarten through second graders finished the year developing mastery of key foundational reading skills that are needed for them to be able to read at grade level. And one of the main reasons for our strong results year after year is because we've never viewed our program as static or complete. We continually ask ourselves what else we could be doing to support student growth in their confidence. And we assess and make optimizations to our program constantly. And then just a couple other examples of what we know works. The need to partner with communities. In the past few years, we've come to realize that there's so much more power and potential when you do this work with communities, not to them or for them. So at Reading Partners, we don't purport to be a panacea. We recognize there's so many incredible nonprofits and organizations in the greater ecosystem. Rather, we seek to use our expertise, continued learning, and our ability to inspire a committed network filled with diverse voices, strengths, perspectives to partner meaningfully with communities. And if we're doing our jobs properly, we're also bringing a bit of humility and eagerness to learn the approaches that are right for each community that we are so, so much trying to serve. And then our commitment to race, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and what we call at Reading Partners Ready. We have a responsibility to our students and their families to not cause undue harm in our approach. So for us, it's essential that we make it a priority to train everyone at Reading Partners to understand unconscious bias in the history of systemic racism in our country and how that manifests today in the educational system. We have a responsibility to frame why we do this work and why this work matters in a way that can inspire others to modify their practices that may unintentionally harm the communities that we so desperately try to serve. We recognize the importance of representation. Dr. Loeb talked about this earlier, for students to see themselves in the tutors that are coming up, coming to the schools, but also building trusting relationships across lines of difference and actually working with tutors who look differently than them. And then last but not least, SEL, or social and emotional learning. I think building strong relationships with our students and supporting students holistically is essential to our model and our philosophy of learning. We come to realize that we cannot focus solely on the academic implications of children's literacy. Our work is advanced when we look at the whole child rather than a set of data points and a corresponding lessons. Our students are resilient and they have a hunger and eagerness to connect and learn. And this is why we integrate SEL into what we do. So our volunteers even receive SEL training at the onset of the volunteer engagement throughout. They learn about what it is, how it's baked into our program model, and what it looks like to support students with social and emotional learning. We want there to be ample space for relationship building, skill building, and reading confidence.
Great, great. As I listen to you, Adeola, I just want to say that, this work that we're all engaged in, improving public education for the most part, understanding the valuable asset that education is, particularly mass education, public education, and how critical it is to the overall health of the country, if not the world. When you're in the business and the work of trying to improve it and examine it and make it fair, it can be a little daunting at times, because it just can be a little daunting at times. And it helps, speaking for myself, it helps to be inspired from time to time. So Adeola, you were very inspirational. And I just want to take a moment to say, thank you for that. I know this is being recorded. I might go back and watch it just whenever I'm feeling a little challenged in these vineyards in which we work. So look, we each get 2 minutes. Each of you will get 2 minutes. We want to talk about next steps, the future. Where's the future? What is the future for each of you guys in this work? More specifically, I'd like to invite each of you to share a bit, you got 2 minutes, a bit about what the future holds for each of your initiatives. What are you optimistic about? What are you optimistic about? And what should the stakeholders present here be on the lookout for the next year? I'm getting reminded by the timekeeper guy that there's 2 minutes. So we're going to start with you, Kara. 2 minutes. What are you optimistic about? Where's the future in Guilford County on this?
Sure, of course. We are very optimistic as far as sustaining and expanding our program. We're always searching out grant opportunities, looking to community partnerships, exploring business partnerships. With these ongoing partnerships that we do have with local universities, we're often able to partner with them in different ways. One being through their university funding projects and grants to employ and provide tuition assistance to their university students for time spent tutoring in our schools. So we're very optimistic about the future. Again, we reached 5,000 students last year, and we're looking to double that and make that 10,000 this year.
Good. Thank you, Kara. Adeola, what is it? What's the future for our reading partners?
I'm excited about so many things. Maybe where I'll just start is just that, I think we all know this, but the widespread school interruptions over the past few years exacerbated the pre-existing opportunity gaps and disrupted learning that disproportionately impacted Black and Brown students and also other students experiencing economic disadvantages. And then in addition to that, digital divide, has also marginalized families' experiences with learning. In response to the pandemic, Reading Partners rapidly pivoted our in-school model to enable online sessions via our Reading Partners Connects program. That was that slide that you saw earlier where there were some kids in front of a laptop where they're still working one-on-one with tutors. We did that to combat the unprecedented disruption in learning. High dosage or high impact tutoring has also been recognized as a key solution to combating the longstanding inequities, as Dr. Loeb so beautifully articulated and showed us through research, and matching access to quality instruction with our students' limitless potential and their incredible resilience is really what we're focused on. This is, as I said earlier, it's a time and place Reading Partners was made for. And our organization recognizes both the loss of instruction time for students that students have endured during COVID-19, as well as the loss of many teachers as critical issues that can impact students. And our one-on-one model offers a way for students to accelerate. So since we have an online platform that features our proven curriculum model, we can now provide curriculum, data systems, training, coaching, technical assistance to support schools, as we're doing now, and also partner organizations, which we just began to do in an effort to expand our reach. We cannot be everywhere. We cannot be in every city across the country, but there are already great organizations, youth development organizations that exist, and how can we partner with them? And our objective is just to positively impact exponentially more students in the years to come. And we believe that our drive to innovate in the face of this, what I'm going to call global crisis, coupled with our organizational commitment to pursue constant improvement, has put us in a position to scale, to think more about our end game, and just impact students like never before. And doing that by partnering with just so many other like-minded organizations, people, and communities.
Yes, Adeola, Whitney, thank you. Kevin, counselor.
I am optimistic about the sheer number of great people who are working in this space, including the people on this call. We put out a call to effective action to see who was doing interesting work around the country. And we had over 200 groups and organizations apply, almost all of them doing interesting, innovative projects. And it's just been humbling to see how many people are working incredibly hard in lots of different ways. And so that's like my biggest source of optimism. I would say in more specific ways, I think that we can find ways to deliver tutoring in a slightly different way, whether it is via Zoom, via hybrid, where you have somebody who's in person, but maybe less frequently, in ways that make it a little easier to implement and a little more affordable for districts over the long haul, and still maintain the effects. And so I think we've got real opportunities to see ways that it can be executed slightly differently that will allow us to reach more kids. I think we have interesting ways to unlock a greater supply of tutors across the country. I think when I came into this work, I was worried that there was a finite number of people who you might be able to deploy in tutoring. And I think what I've seen is that there are some structural and policy barriers that get in the way of real opportunities to bring in pre-service teachers across the country. There are 500,000 of them currently studying to be teachers, and get them in classrooms to tutor. Getting college students, work-study students into classrooms, tutoring as part of their work-study programs, to use high school students to take paraprofessionals and have that be a pathway into becoming a teacher via getting credit while you're a tutor. So I think there are a lot of opportunities through policy and innovative ideas to unlock a greater number of people who want to help kids and deploy them. And I also think there's a way for tutoring to do more to build on great work that's already happening in other facets of education. And just to give an example, there is so much innovation that is happening and it's well overdue in early grades literacy and ensuring that the science of reading is coming into classrooms, and that more pre-service teachers are learning how to teach reading, and that early grades teachers are getting more professional development on how to teach reading. Tutoring coming in behind that and reinforcing that and providing the safety net that ensures that no kids reach third grade unable to read is a real possibility at scale in this country. So I have a high level of optimism, but I would just close where I started by saying my optimism is driven mostly by the great people who are working in this space, including the people on this call and the people with NPSS.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. That's I'd agree, Kevin. I totally agree. I get humbled with the company that I keep lately in this world of high impact tutoring and folks who are looking at this whole issue of learning loss coming out of the pandemic and how do we to attend to it. So Susanna, you're going to bring this home. Where's the future on this? How are we looking? How do you feel about the National Student Support Accelerator?
Yeah, so, well, about high impact tutoring broadly, I'm really super optimistic. I mean, just following up on everything here, from the scale that Kara and Adeola are already undertaking and already reaching kids, we really have this opportunity to give each student an adult who knows them and cares about them and can help them with their any time that they fall off academically. It's the kind of education that we want for our own kids, that we want for kids across the country. And I think we're getting closer to that. And this is such an opportunity. So I'm super optimistic about that. In terms, in some ways, slightly more mundane, I'm optimistic about some of the things that we're doing at the accelerator. So we're working, for example, on some terrific tools. One example to build on what Kevin was saying is we're going to have some tools for how higher education can support K-12 tutoring like you're doing, Kara, in Guilford. Colleges and universities could really be part of this solution for teacher recruitment in an ever refilling way. So I'm really excited about that set of tools that should help colleges around the country who want to put these programs in to put them in more easily. We have some new research that we're excited about. Later this week, we're releasing a paper on on-demand tutoring, showing some really positive effects of this tutoring for students who take it up. But the real takeaway is how few students do take it up. Students don't opt in, even if it can help them. And not necessarily surprisingly, lower achieving students and students who tend to be absent more from schools are substantially less likely to choose to take advantage of free tutoring, even though it's good. We ran a little random control trial to see whether we could affect take-up by encouraging students or parents to help students. And we quite dramatically actually increased the use by lower achieving students. But even then, even an over 100% benefit, their take-up was only on par with high achieving students. And so my conclusion is that we we have to work really hard on engagement for any tutoring, but particularly opt-in tutoring, to address the needs of students and the kinds of approaches that we've been talking about today, where tutoring is built into the schools, are much more likely to be effective, particularly for the students who are most disengaged. So that's one study that's going to be coming out soon, but we also have been doing research across the country, including in Guilford, about the challenges and how districts are overcoming those challenges to implement this kind of tutoring. And we're hoping that our learning from there, because we really have been learning about how places are overcoming some of the difficulties, will be helpful in kind of moving forward and making it easier for other places. Sometimes you only implement something when it's easy to implement, and other times you implement it because it's the thing that's really needed. And this is definitely the second case. It's not the easiest thing to implement, but you need to implement it in order to reach the students. So we also have actually done some evaluations of programs that look quite good. So there are things like that to be continually excited about the potential for this kind of approach to be beneficial. So I think there's tons to be optimistic about, and we're just really pleased to be able to be part of what I think is again, an unprecedented opportunity to give students what they deserve in the schools that they have. And so I'm really excited to be part of that.
Great, excellent, Dr. Loeb, excellent. And I'm glad you mentioned the higher education component to this also. And Guilford County, Kara, is the higher education component, is that North Carolina A&T?
Yes, locally in Greensboro, yes. A&T and University of North Carolina at Greensboro.
Yes, but that, yeah, the North Carolina A&T, that's the historically Black college that I mentioned that lost the football game to my North Carolina Central University. I don't know if I mentioned that.
That is correct, yes.
Long-standing rivalry. I've just got to go there.
That is correct.
All right. Okay, Kate Cochran, I'm going to hand this off back to you again, and for you to bring us home.
Yes, thank you, Raymond. And thank you everyone on the panel. This has been incredibly valuable for me, and I can imagine for people here today and also folks who will watch the recording. I'm super excited to hear both about the research side and also about the practice side, and thinking about what we've done and also how we can modify and expand in the future. It's been super inspiring. A couple NPSS focused items to close on. Folks who are joining this call have asked for ways to, at the current time, get involved in the National Partnership for Student Success. And there are a couple ways to do this. If you are a nonprofit, a school district, a local government agency, you can reach out to us to apply for technical assistance, for support and resources on implementing new programs, expanding programs, or improving existing programs that are focused on tutoring, mentoring, student success coaching, post-secondary transitions, and or wraparound or integrated student supports. So I encourage you to check that out. It never hurts to fill it out. Even if you don't have a fully formulated idea, we'll contact you and learn more about your request. If you're a provider of student supports in one of these categories or in one of these roles, I encourage you to join our coalition. That group of about 100 organizations that has begun to work together to think about how we can collaborate to solve some of the challenges that came up on today's panel at a national level, and also learn from the experience of others who have been doing this work for a long time and have a lot of insight about what works, what doesn't, what common pitfalls are, and what opportune moments might be. And then if you are an individual looking for volunteer opportunities, particularly in mentoring and tutoring, or if you're looking for volunteer opportunities via AmeriCorps, I encourage you, and I will put all these in the chat, I encourage you to check out our site that we partnered with the Ready Set Coalition on, where you can type in your zip code and search for opportunities. And more to come here around employment opportunities. We know that volunteers are one piece of this puzzle, but are not the entire picture. So more to come there. I encourage you to sign up for our newsletter to learn about updates as we go and as we learn. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.